Perfect. I think we're just gonna start. So, of course, big welcome to everyone. I'm super excited to have all of you here. We're a lot of people, and there's more joining. So, of course, this will be a recorded session as well. So, if you're joining a bit late or anything like that, or you want to share it with colleagues or anything, of course, that's fine. We will share this recording after this meeting, and probably gonna happen in the afternoons or tomorrow. We'll do some editing, and also, of course, include some summarize and some support articles in that message as well. And we are approximately now like around 500 people, and this is my first webinar ever, so I'm really excited for this and really excited about this topic, of course. So just to introduce myself real quick, I'll be your host today, and my name is Alex or Alexander. I'm based in Sweden currently right now, and I'm a key account manager here in Teamtailor, leading the UK team. And today we will talk about talent pool, candidate pool. You can call it whatever, of course. But of course, we will do this, of course, together with our features such as custom fields, tags, segments, and nurture. So today I will talk you through kind of how you build a relevancy in your data pool, both for existing customers, but also, of course, with new existing candidates and also, of course, new candidates. So first of all, we will start in the candidate pool. So I'll start sharing my screen. And if you do have any questions, please put it in the comments. We will read through them all. If I do have the time, of course, I will try to answer, but I'm cautious about time. So please, all the questions in the comments, we will summarize and set it out afterwards. But let's start, and I will start sharing my screen right now. Perfect. So of course, the first thing we will touch on today is the candidate pool. So what you see right here, I hope most of you already seen this before, but just to give you a quick kind of reminder or walkthrough of what it is, this is a talent pool or candidate pool where we store all of your candidates. So what you see to the right-hand side, that's all the candidates that exist in the system. That's both applicants, connected candidates, or source candidates. So here you have a lot of different candidates, of course. And to the left-hand side, this is where you see our segments. So as you can see, the department and roles, that's defaults. So that's something that exists for all users in Teamtailor. So that will always be there. And if we go below, you will be able to see company segments. And when we talk about company segments, of course, these are just some of my company segments. And we want to focus a lot on this area today because company segment is something you create by yourself. And I will take you through how you create segments and how you can use segments for different kind of actions, of course. And with this, you can always filter on candidates. So if you want to filter, find specific candidates based on different statuses, different ratings, whatever it might be, you can always use the filter. And we will come back to filter in a while. You always, of course, have the search option up here. So you will be able to search for candidates by name, search in the CV, search in notes, whatever you want to do. Of course, you can always use that feature as well. But I want to talk and focus mostly on today's session with the company segments, because company segments is really where you can navigate and kind of filter out candidates that you want to reach out to, or you want to just show interest for a new job or whatever it might be. So here I created some segments. One is called French speaking, for instance. One is called pre-boarding, and one is called reject, stay in touch. And I will show you an example now of the reject, stay in touch. And this is a segment I've created by using tags. So tags is of course a valid point when it comes to creating segments. So before I show you how you actually create a segment, I just want to show you how you tag candidates. And you can do this in two different ways, of course. So we'll move over to the jobs here. And in the job section, I do have a job that's called backend developer. And this backend developer job, we'll just move into this job, and you will see my process here. And as you can see, like the big stage that I have here is called reject, stay in touch. Because I think most of you have actually been talking to candidates for some reason, or unfortunately, they didn't fit the role, but maybe they were a really good candidate and you want to stay in touch with them. You want to talk with them, I don't know, for another job in 3-6 months time, whatever it might be. And it's always hard to remember a name. Even though it feels like it's easy to remember, it's usually quite hard because you talk to a lot of people during your days. You talk a lot with people outside of work, and so on. So this is just an easy way to kind of remind yourself, okay, this was really a good candidate that I want to stay in touch with. So of course, you can always tag candidates by going into the candidate and just manually tag them right here. Or you can also make this automated by creating a stage, adding a trigger, as you can see here, that automatically tag the candidate with stay in touch. And then I reject the candidate. And reject is not a bad thing. Just this job wasn't suitable for them, but maybe there's another opportunity for them. So as you can see, here we have a candidate called Nana, and she was rejected, and she has a tag on her that says stay in touch. So if we go back to the candidate pool now, you will now see that I have a company segment called reject stay in touch again. We go into that segment, and now we can see Nana in this segment. And how did we do this? So if we move back to the filter option, so as you can see, I can actually filter, as you can see here, reject, and then I can filter on a lot of different things. I can filter on jobs, I can filter on tags, I can filter on basically whatever. And then I filter on stay in touch. So when you do these sort of like filtering options, so I'll just go back to show you. So when I go back here and I say reject, and I go to tags, stay in touch, or whatever it might be. Let's see here. You see to the bottom here that every filtering I do actually make it possible to create a segment. So of course you can be really creative, and it's just up to you to decide what kind of segments you want to create in Teamtailor. It's to fill your needs, and of course to be creative to find the candidates that you really want to keep in touch with. So I save a segment, I can save my own segment, but I can also make it possible for all the users to actually see this. And then of course I name my segment, I put a nice emoji just to make it a bit fun. Then I create my segment, and now my segment appears here. This actually means now that even though we just made this manual now, everyone that I tag, either manually, by a trigger, whatever, they will now be in this segment automatically. And you can of course be super creative. You can be even for stay in touch department wise, stay in touch rating wise, whatever it might be. You can of course create subtitles and really make it more defined than this. So this is more a general one by using tags. So this is where I created this kind of tag segment. Another topic I want to stay on the company segments, of course, but that was just a company segment using tags. You can create company segments using a lot of other things. And one thing I want to touch on today is using custom fields. And of course, what is a custom field? That's a question I receive on a daily basis. And I really want to highlight how valuable the custom field function is. It will really help you out when it comes to actually finding those candidates later on in the process, or even after the summer, because maybe you're not recruiting during summer, but you will recruit heavily after the summer. So if we move on here, I'm just going to go into any random candidate. So we're just going to press anyone here. So talking about a custom field, what is a custom field? So as you can see here, email, phone, tags, and LinkedIn. That is the default fields that all users in Teamtailor has. So that's always there. Everything that you see below here, that's custom fields that I added myself. So these fields, of course, it's totally up to you to decide and add, and you can add whatever here, but I'm going to show you later on how you add this, of course. But just to see here, I added a field called language. So here I can easily say French speaking, Spanish, whatever it might be. And maybe that's something that I want, because I want to have all my French speaking candidates in one segment. But of course, that is just an example. You can use this for skills, you can use this for start date, you can use this for salary demands, lots of different things. So of course, if I now press French here, you will then see the candidate ending up on the French speaking candidates. And as I said before, that's just like one of the filtering. So this is a segment created by a filter using the language field with French. I can even do this. Maybe I want to do a French and sales department. Then of course I can make a segment for that as well. So you can be really defined. And a question that you might ask, where do I find custom fields and how do I add them? So for instance here, if you're an admin user, you have access to the settings up here. I know that everyone here is probably not an admin, probably never seen the settings here. So if you do feel cautious about creating fields and really have a good idea, reach out to your admin users in Teamtailor and ask them to add those custom fields. But here in the settings, you press settings up here, you will then be able to access the setting called custom fields to the left-hand side. You press on custom fields and you will then be able to add your custom field. So here you can see the language one. And I used a multi-select field type so I can have different options. But of course, you can create whatever type of fields. It could be a yes and no, it could be a date, it could be a number. You can do a lot of different things here. So the possibilities are endless, and it's just finding your needs in terms of this, of course. So that is just some of the fields that or some of the segments that I've been creating, just playing around with and so on. And you probably know more than I, because it's always different in different companies. You're trying to find different candidates, keeping candidates for different purpose and so on. But I think you get the point of how you can navigate, filter out candidates just by one click. So please, after this call, think about segments that could be useful for you when recruiting or just to keep in touch with your candidates. The next part that I want to show you is just the navigation up here. And the navigation up here, of course, you can search for a lot of different words and so on. But for instance, you can search for sales. Now we screen notes, we screen if you have sales in your CV, whatever it might be. So then you can see here, Frederick, I have sales here. Then I can also navigate more. So for instance, say for instance that you have a multi-language kind of company. So some people might put sales, other people might put sell, which is the Swedish word for sales. And then of course I can find the candidates that both has sales and who has sell in this part. So that is Boolean searches, and I think if you Google for Boolean searches, you can find most of it, but it screens wording in the CV and wording on the notes in this part. And this was, of course, when you have existing candidates in the system. And just to kind of keep it narrowed down so you can find them, you can see them, and so on. But I also want to discuss how you add candidates, because sometimes you might just want to add like a talent pool, just of candidates that you find on LinkedIn, or you just find them just by them sending a CV to you or whatever. You can always add candidates into Teamtailor by using either from the candidate tab, just adding them like this, or maybe you're on LinkedIn, for instance. Then we have our sourcing tool, as you can see up here, where you can actually source directly into your account using the sourcing tool without going back and forth to different kind of tabs and so on. Perfect. And that's of course, like when it comes to like creating these segments and so on, it's more or less to find your way. It's not us telling you that you need to have a reject, stay in touch or anything like that. It's totally up to you. And you find the relevancy in your data pool. What are the candidates that you feel like, oh, I can't find them any longer? Those are the company segments that you want. And then of course, another question would be, what do you do next? You have the segments, you have the candidates. What do you want to do now? Can we do something with that? Or can we just, okay, we have those here. Okay, perfect. But of course, so let's go and say, for instance, go to the reject, stay in touch ones. So if I go to my segments, you can do a lot of actions directly from the candidate pool. It doesn't necessarily have to be for a job or anything like that. It's maybe just to stay in touch. So maybe I just want to reach out to Nana in this case, or I want to reach out to more candidates. Either I can just mark Nana here, or I can mark everyone here. And as you see down the line or down at the bottom, you can then actually see that you can do a lot of actions. I can, for instance, if there were 100 people here, I can of course send all of them a separate message just to reach out to see, okay, how are things going? Just want to stay in touch. We have a new opening of the office now, like after the summer, whatever it might be, just sharing some news. You can of course also share the candidates with someone internally. You can of course add them to a new job, just reaching out and telling them, we have a new position that we feel like is going to suit you perfectly. So we're going to add you to that process. And if you would like, of course, we will proceed with your application because we do have all the historical data. It's like a free candidate, basically, that you can talk to, and you can reach out, you can read about the CV, ask them to upload a new CV if it's been a long time, or whatever. But then, of course, there's lots of other things. And a subject I want to touch on briefly just now, I'm not going to jump in too detail about this function, but it's a function that you see up here called nurture. And everyone here has this feature. And how you activate it, you go to the skills center, small lightning here, and you will see a feature called nurture. And nurture is like an email campaign. So you create your own campaigns, when they should be sent out, where they should go to, and kind of everything you can create for different purposes. There's no limitations of how many different nurture campaigns you can have. You can have how many as you like. And if you go to nurture here, I just created some random ones just to kind of show. But as you can see, I have a keep warm kind of nurture campaign. I have a pre-boarding kind of nurture campaign, a lot of different things. And what this does is that I build up a campaign that says this email should go out this day or this day later, and this email should go out this day later. It just kind of just creating this email campaign, and I can go to my segments and say, okay, for instance, React Stay in Touch. I want all my candidates from the React Stay in Touch to be added to my nurture campaign. So I can add them directly from here. So let's say adding Hannah to the keep warm future candidates, just to stay in touch, because just that little email, whatever it is, news can be news, words from the CEO, word from the team, like whatever you want to put in here. It's totally up to you, but it's just to stay connected with your candidates, because those are valuable. And there's a lot of you that has a strong candidate pool that you can use for so many different purposes. So my task for you would be, of course, to group up, talk together. Okay, what do you feel like, what could a good segment for us to be? Is it finding old candidates, or is it when we adding new candidates to actually see and screen and just work as a team? So that's pretty much it, like about the candidate pool. And I just wanted to show this because I see this being used like for so much greatness. Like you can stay connected with candidates and everyone value from it, both you, both the candidate. It's just creating a nice experience, and also nice for the brand, nice for everyone, basically. So I'm gonna stop sharing right now, but of course we will send out a summary of all the features. I know we went a bit fast and so on, but we will summarize all of this and all of your questions in the candidate in the chat box. But I just want to spend kind of like the next 10 minutes is like, what do you feel would be a great segment to have? So not thinking about my segments, but maybe those are good ones, I don't know. But you can please put in the chat box, like if you do have any good segments that you feel like would be really useful. Meanwhile, I'll go through some questions. So please put like an idea of a segment that you think would be valuable, interesting for the future. That's a good one. It's a really good one. So of course, this could be a candidate that was connected. A working calendar function that tracks availability for contractors. Pre-boarding. Pre-boarding is such a huge area, of course. In Teamtailor, like when you hire them, there's usually 2-3 weeks before they actually start, or even more than that. So you might want to create a nurture campaign. So when they drag them to hired, maybe you tag them pre-boarding, and then you have a pre-boarding segment, and you can add them to the nurture campaign, kind of pre-boarding with details what they should have in mind, or if they can read something in advance while starting. Graduate dates, that's perfect, because maybe a lot of people connect now and actually graduate in 6 months' time. Hard to remember, right? But with a segment, you can actually find those candidates. Can you create different oh yeah, so you can put different layers, of course. So I just used a tag, that's it, but I can use the same tag, filter on specific department, or I can tag stay in touch tech, stay in touch sales, and I can have 2 different segments for that. So you can really narrow it down when it comes to putting layers and creating segments. Working students soon turning rookies, Exactly. That's a perfect candidate pool. Because you can, of course, like you can reach out to so many people in this candidate pool. Candidates hired, that's the one. Because maybe you want to send out like a hired message to all of them after 1 week after getting hired, just to kind of we know that you're not starting yet, but please, you can read so much more about like preparing yourself and what to expect and so on. Currently, we usually don't delete candidate if they already have another job. We put a tag, currently not available. With hundreds of, I like to filter so I won't always see them when I go to the team. How can I filter so they show up differently? Let's see here. I see. I would put like a custom field, like where you can actually change it afterwards. So you can always have like different layers on top of one segment. So you can create one segment and then you create another one with another filtering and so on. Yeah, you can of course have like the same thing in the candidate pool. You can always filter on referrals. And those referrals, you can then create a nurturing campaign, mark all of those referrals and put into a nurturing campaign. And then you can send out messages there as well. I'm just reading through some questions. I know I'm not sharing my screen right now, but I'm just trying to read the chat. Meanwhile, it's hard when I'm sharing. So that's a good point. So who can actually access all candidates? That's a really good question. Because of course, you will see the candidates that are related to you. So we can probably spend 5 times. This wasn't prepared, so we'll just kind of wing this one. But yeah, so when you go to candidates here, of course, like for admin, for a recruitment lead, you will be able to see all candidates. But if you're just a user, hiring manager, you will only be able to see the candidates related to the jobs that you have been attached to. And that's why I want to introduce you. And we will send out guidelines about this one because I wasn't really involved in this in this webinar. But in the settings part here, you actually have sorry, you actually have the opportunity of extending your candidate pool access for default hiring managers and normal users. So if you can't access all your candidates, you can actually build teams. And in this team function, you can see here, you can actually extend how many candidates from different departments, from different locations that I will be able to see. So for instance, you can say, I'm part of product, so I can only see product jobs here, but I can extend to see sales, for instance, by using Teams. So this is also something that I would talk with an admin to do when it comes to increasing how many people or how many candidates you can see in the candidate pool. So Teams is something that we will include for sure in the email that goes out, just explaining this a bit more. It wasn't a part of this webinar, but I hope this makes a little bit sense. We will send out more guided walkthrough exactly how this works. And sorry about that, it's hard to read and share. Let's see here. Totally. Perhaps the possibility of temporary candidates to enter date when they end their position. So this is of course something that you can ask, like when messaging with candidates, you can make a note, and in that note, you can actually search for that. So that would be a good opportunity to put that in a note. When's the end date? We are in early. Custom fields can actually, yeah, for sure. So if you want to change custom fields, of course, you can go into settings and adapt them. So maybe you want to just change the wording, whatever it might be, you can always change them. Sorry. any other questions and so on? As I said, this is a recorded session. So for those who join a bit late, this will all be recorded. So we will send out this one. It will take a bit time because we want to edit it a little bit. We want to add some text, some important or valuable kind of resources as support articles, including the Teams bit as well. Is there a way to check which candidates applied through LinkedIn? You can see this in your analytics to see the source of your candidates if you want to. Perfect. But thank you so much. I have a lot of questions here to go through, and we will summarize this and make sense of all the questions, give you the answers you need, and so on. And I was just super happy for these like 28 minutes that I got for my first webinar, and super happy that so many of you could join today. And just really appreciate all the comments, all the love that I receive right now. Huge thanks for that. But yeah, amazing. So stay safe and have a nice week. Let's hopefully talk soon again. I'm definitely doing this again because it's been really, really fun. So take care, stay safe, and hopefully see you soon. Thank you.